Welcome to iShowU Studio. This is the follow along video to help you get familiar with the app. In this video we will be covering tools and features of the app to give you a comprehensive understanding of how the software works. In this folder you should see a sample project, the title image, the screenshots from the app itself, this follow along video, and a final video. You can have a look at the final video now and see what the sample project will look like once it's finished, or you can simply follow the instructions in this video. So the first thing that we need to do is install iShowU Studio. Open the package and click on the DMG folder, then drag iShowU Studio to the applications folder. This shouldn't take too long. Once this has been completed, select the how to upload a video to YouTube file and double click on that, and that will open iShowU Studio with the file. Once here you will see the video track, and we can drag the playhead to scrub through the timeline and have a look at the video that we have. So the first step that we're going to do is tell somebody to open an internet browser. Move the playhead to just before the internet browser opens. Click the text icon, open the properties panel, and in the properties panel you can enter your text. So you're telling the end user to click on an internet browser to open a new window. Click the scale slider and move that to resize the object, and then click the object itself to position it where you want it. So once you've positioned the text object and changed the size, you can then scrub the playhead to just before the internet browser opens, and then you can adjust the duration of the text object to make it fit the scene. So just make some fine adjustments. And that should be quite good. Right, then we're going to add some more text at the top. Again, in the properties window, type in what you want the user to enter into the address bar. Then adjust the size using the scale slider again, and the position by dragging the text object. Now add an arrow to point to the position of where they need to click the mouse. Adjust the positions of the objects, and you can customize the objects in the properties window. Change the line width of the arrow, and then look at the duration of the objects in the timeline itself. So adjust the duration of the arrow so that they can see the drop down menu if it appears. So now we're going to add a pan zoom. This is when the screen zooms into a specific point that you have identified in your timeline. So to adjust the pan zoom, click on the second point in the interface, and then drag your screen to the position you want it to be. So the next step is to add a rectangle object. We're going to place this over the button to upload. This just gives more focus to where you want your end user to click in the scene. And then in the properties panel, we can obviously adjust that with the size of the line. You can take down the stroke size, which is the outline of the box. And then we can do some small adjustments in there. We can also put in an arrow, really illustrating where we want them to click. And then some text. So now you can adjust the position and the scale of the text object within your scene. And then what we're going to do is we're going to customize the text object with colors. So you can select the foreground and change the color of that. There. You can also reduce the size of the shadow, making it a bit clearer. And then the background. So the background is a gradient. We select the first side of the gradient and adjust the opacity. And then we select the second side of the gradient and again we adjust the opacity. We can also adjust the shades and the colors of the background to make the text object stand out. We're going to add in another pan zoom here. So remember, you select the second point in the interface and then you position the screen where you want the zoom to be. Right, so if we play that back, we should see all of those things coming in. So the next step is to log into YouTube. So we're going to use more text, telling them to log in. Adjust your text object to the position you require and then select the background. Adjust the opacity. Select the other side of the gradient for the background and again adjust the opacity. You can select a reflection or select etched text. This will give a nice effect to the text object. You can adjust your background colors and choose whichever color you like. And again, as a gradient, you need to adjust both sides. After you finish the background, select the border radius and adjust this to give a nice curve to your corners. Now we're going to add another arrow. And again, with the arrow or any shapes, you'll notice that you can change the face color, the stroke color, backgrounds and shadows and everything else that's in the properties panel, which I'm sure you'll play with once you get through this video. Alright, so we just adjust these slightly so that it looks right. Now on here, we're going to fade out the arrow. So in the properties panel, once you click the object, you change the fade out or fade to 100% to 0%. I'll show you in more detail soon. Alright, next part. Obviously they're going to need to upload a video. So we get another box or another rectangle object and edit where we want them to click. An arrow. Some text. Just adjust those to fine tune where you want them to start and finish. And the fade, you click 0 to fade in, 0 to 100% over a duration. And it's exactly the same with the fade out. Click to 0, 100% to 0, and you change the duration. So now they should fade in and fade out. Alright, select the video. So we put in an arrow and text again, exactly the same as before. In the properties panel, you put in your text. Have a look at where they start and finish. Adjust the durations if needed. So that's quite short. So what we're going to do is zoom in on the timeline. You'll notice that there's a plus and minus magnifying glass. And that way it gives you more control over fine-tuning those adjustments. And it's still very short, so we're going to add a freeze frame. On the freeze frame you can adjust the duration with the slider, and then you click add. And that will put in a however long your duration was, so a 1 second freeze frame over the entire clip, over the entire timeline. So it just gives you a little bit more time to explain that step, or explain what you're doing. So to the next bit, obviously we're going to click the button to upload or add. So we need a rectangle object. Over the button, adjust the size and the stroke of that rectangle object to make it look a bit nicer. Adjust the corners, fine tune it. Then we're going to add another arrow and some more text. Add a pan zoom, exactly the same as before. Move to the second position. Adjust your screen to where you want the zoom to finish. Go back to the start, we can watch that and see how it looks. So the duration of the objects are a little bit long. The scene behind the objects is changing before the objects change. So let's adjust those to just before that drop down window disappears. So we're adjusting all the objects to fade out or disappear at the same time that the screen moves. So another arrow to add the next step. You can put in whatever words you want. Obviously you can have step 1 through to 7 or however many steps it is, and you can put titles on the top or headings on the top as soon as those steps appear. For this we're trying to do it reasonably simply, and just trying to give you an idea of what you can do with the software. So arrow and text again. It's a long title, so I'm going to adjust those durations of those objects to make it look a little bit nicer. Now with this, you can copy and paste objects, and it's especially beneficial if you have adjusted your backgrounds, your gradients, your colors. It just means that everything will look the same. And it's actually quite a handy feature to have, just to be able to copy and paste the objects. And then the text, whatever text you put in, it'll obviously stay with the same background and gradients and borders and things, and it will just be the text that changes. Once again, we copy and paste. Change the words. Change the category. So more text, more arrows. They're probably the main things that you will use, because most of the time you are just trying to describe a process or how to do something. So obviously text and arrows are really handy. And the last step is sharing on social media. So we need to, again, copy and paste. Change the position and durations of your objects. Change the text. Make some final adjustments. And that's it. You've completed the first video. Now we can actually add titles to both ends. So if we scroll right back to the start, then if you click File, Add Media, you'll see in the package folder that there is an image file. So click on that and choose, and that will open into the timeline. Now you want to select all, then press Shift and click the image so that it deselects the image. Then move all of the media across so that you can fit the image into the start. And we can fade that in and fade that out, which should create a fade transition between the title and the video. And that looks good. Now there's another way to do titles, and that is just using the software itself. So if we go all the way to the other side, all the way to the end, and put in some end titles. So to create titles with the software, we're going to select the rectangle object and create the rectangle object so it takes up the full screen. Making sure you line up the edges, and you're going to change the background so that it creates an opaque background so that it covers the entire screen. So open the properties panel, and you can take away the line by reducing the size width to 0. Take away the stroke, and then adjust the background. The first part of the gradient, adjust the opacity. And then the second side of the gradient, and again adjust the opacity. This gives you a complete opaque background for your scene. Once you've done this, adjust the timeline so that you move the object to the very end, and then we're going to put some text on there. Now this text you can write in whatever you want. You can put credits, or you can just put thanks for watching, which is what I've done. We're going to press Control Return, which will give you a new line within the text box. Also what we're going to do, adjust that obviously to the center. And we can center the top line by just adding some spaces in there. We're going to adjust the background. So increase the opacity of the one side and increase the opacity of the other side. And then we can color it. And color the other side of the gradient. I'm going to change the color of this and make it etched. Now we can add some space at the top and some space at the bottom by hitting Control Enter again on the ends and on the beginning. Adjust the borders, give it a slight rounded corner. I'm going to put in some more text. You can put whatever you like here. I'm going to put in a follow us on social media. Remember, Control Enter to do a new line. Adjust the position, adjust the backgrounds. Some etched text. It looks quite good. Put a little bit of space on the right hand side by adding spaces. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to import some images, just some small icons that I've found. They will also be in the package folder. And adjust the position of the images. Add another one for Facebook. You can get the same size obviously by putting it over the top and adjusting the size carefully. And that's it, that's your end title. Now we're going to select all of these to create a transition. I'm going to do a cross dissolve or a crossfade. So I'm just going to adjust the beginning of that to just over the end of the video. I'm going to change the fade in from 0 to 100, and then I'm going to change the video fade out from 100 to 0 over the same duration. So now that should do a nice crossfade for the end titles. And that's it. Once you have done the titles, that's the video completed. Now you are ready to export or to share. So the next step is to click the share icon in the bottom right hand corner. The share interface will appear. You can choose YouTube, which has all the YouTube categories, Vimeo, which has the Vimeo categories, or just a movie file. You can adjust your title, adjust the description, add or adjust the tags, Choose whether or not you have compatibility with iDevices, and set your resolution. Then simply click Share. The video will start compositing, and encoding, once it's complete, it will open in QuickTime. You can play the video to check to make sure everything is correct, and scrub through it just to make sure everything is there. And that completes the follow along video. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to use iShowU Studio, and thank you for watching.